Welcome to Brand Builders TV. Deep dive topics, tools and resources brought to you by global thought leaders from within the Brand Builders Club. This show gives you access to the strategies that you can use to move forward with ease and flow in every area of your life and business. In today's show, Philippa takes you on a deep dive into how to pivot your life in a more consistent state to keep you moving and flowing. In parts 1 and 2 of this series, Philippa got you focused on identifying where you are now in the main areas of your life, giving you some strategies to move up the emotional scale. Now it's time to start pivoting your life in a more consistent state to keep on moving and flowing with greater ease and fulfillment. Learn it, model it, and get shit done. Let's go.
Welcome to Brand Builders TV. My name is Philippa Bennett. I am the Wellbeing Gardener, planting the seeds of joy and gratitude. And this is the third in a 4-part series about how to go from grief to gratitude and live the life that you want to live. So thank you for tuning in if you're tuning in live. And thank you for watching if you're watching on the replay. Now, as I said, this is part 3 in a 4-part series. And in the first part, we had a look at where we are now. Just to recap very briefly, we had a look at 4 main areas of life and how you're feeling about those main areas now. Then in part 2, we moved into moving up the emotional scale. So if we're down low in the emotional scale, some strategies to use to help to move us up the emotional scale into a better, more positive feeling mood. And there is a handout that goes along with that, which you'll find in the description of the video. And then this week we're actually going to be going through how to let that flow, so how to let those positive feelings flow. So maybe you're doing the exercises, you're doing the energy work, you're trying to move yourself up the emotional scale, but you're kind of doing it in bits and pieces and you're not really getting it to flow in your life. This week we're going to have a look at some more strategies to help that become a more flowing part of your life. Okay, so at this point, when we've been through part 1, we've been through part 2, it's now a good time to actually review our intentions. Now, I said in part 2, I think, or maybe even part 1, that intentions are actually different to goals. So goals are things that you make when you have to get stuff done. So, you know, my goal this week is to get X, Y, and Z done, or to get the house cleaned, or my goal today is to make sure that I weed the garden, or that kind of thing. Intentions are more of an energetic kind of thing. So you're saying, if you're starting a course or you're doing this energy work, for example, your intention might be, I'm going to get the best out of this course that I possibly can. It's my intention to really absorb as much information as I can. Or it's my intention to try and see only the positive aspects in what's happening in my day. Okay, now one of the best strategies that I've found to actually help to allow positive energy to flow in your life on a daily basis, minute by minute, hour by hour, is actually something to do with changing your perspective on things. Now, it's very easy to say, well, you know, you've just got to see the positive side of things. But, you know, if you're down low in a grief kind of emotion, if you're down in depression, if you're down in grief, then it's very difficult to be able to see the positive side of things. I mean, you can't get there from there. It's too much of a bigger leap. Now, this also isn't something you can do when you're in a fresh kind of grief, if you're in a fresh kind of emotion. So actually, a good example this week for me was something happened which made me really, really angry. And I hadn't been this angry actually probably in years. It's something, it absolutely flipped me out. And in the moment that it happened, there was nothing I could do. There was nothing that anybody else could do to pivot the way I felt about that. It took a little bit of time for my anger to subside, and then I was able to try and pivot that around and see it from a different perspective. And perspective is everything in this. Is there something that has happened to you recently or perhaps in the past where you were in the moment and you just couldn't turn it around? Tell me in the comments if that's something that's happened to you. I'd like to know, even if it's something way in the past that you think is really funny now, because quite often we can look back at things and think, oh, well, I totally overreacted to that. And that's fine. It's good to be able to see the humour in things afterwards. But let me know in the comments if that's something that's happened to you. Okay, the thing that we can do though to try and pivot situations around, the thing that we can do to try and change our perspective about the way that we look at things. Now the series is grief to gratitude, so we will sort of put a bit of a grief and loss turn on it, but it's something I like to call the what if game. Now the reason why we play the what if game and we turn it into a game is because, well, first of all, when you think about games, when you think about playing, it brings a lighter kind of mood to absolutely anything. And what we're trying to do is, if let's say we get into some negative thought patterns, which is really, really easy to do when we're suffering from grief. Now, as I said, if this grief is fresh, then it's probably not a good idea to be doing this kind of exercise. Sorry, something popped up on my screen I have to now get rid of. There you go. Absolutely everything. Oh, what's happened? It's watching not myself. A good idea to be doing it. That's very strange. Bear with me for 1 second, please. Okay, come back. It brings a lighter kind of mood to absolutely anything. This is very odd. Me for 1 second. Brings a lighter kind of... Okay. Brings a lighter kind of mood to... I'll have to restart this video. Bear with me for a second. Oh, there I am. Can somebody tell me in the comments if I'm still alive? Something very weird is happening. Okay, where was I? Live TV. Okay, we were talking about the what if game. Now the what if game is basically, if you're caught in some kind of negative thought patterns, what actually happens is you kind of get in a bit of a loop. So you're in this kind of negative loop, you are things are going around in your head. Let's take a grief situation. Now, as I said, not fresh grief, because fresh grief is very hard to see any kind of way out of. We're talking about a couple of years down the line, perhaps where it's still spinning around in your head, and you get into these negative thought patterns and you think, you know, why me? Why does this happen to me? Why did I have to go through this trauma? Why did I have to go through this loss? And you get in this kind of negative loop of thought. Now, if I think to my own situation, if you saw me in part 1, you'll know that my story is that my father committed suicide 20 years ago. And it was very easy to get into this kind of, it's a kind of a horrible thing to say to myself, but I was in a bit of a pity party a lot of the time. You know, why me? Why did this happen to me? Why couldn't I have done anything about it? Why do bad things happen to good people? This kind of loop of negative thoughts, negative beliefs that we get into is sometimes very difficult to get out of. And if we say to ourselves, well, I just have to look at the positives in things, that's really, really difficult to do. So the what if game is a way to help to pivot a negative situation into a positive one without it being too much of a leap. Now, how does that work? So let's take, for example, my own grief situation that I was in. My own what if game would be, you know, what if today I could just experience positive things in my life? What if today I could only experience creative interactions with all the people that I meet? What if just for today I could leave those grief thoughts behind and just enjoy a couple of hours just for myself? You know, what if today on my way to work I get every single green traffic light because I deserve it, I deserve a break? That's just a way to just pivot it in a very easy way, in a very playful way, to go from, what have we got? We've got we've got someone watching. It just, Facebook keeps popping things up on my screen at me. So it's a very easy way just to pivot something without it being the leap from grief to gratitude. It's just a very gentle way to pivot up the emotional scale. Now, this can also be applied in life. Now, because we're talking about situations, we're talking about things like, let's say again, let's take grief again for an example. Let's say excuse me, let's say a few months possibly after you've lost someone. Maybe it could even be a job, or it could be the loss of a relationship. It doesn't have to be a death. Let's say you're going to a party, for example. Maybe it's a party where you might see some old work colleagues. It might be a party where it's a family party where you're going to see some family members, or maybe some common friends that you had when you were in a relationship. Now, that's very easy to get into a negative thought pattern before you go there. You know, oh no, I'm going to be seeing these people. Oh, Auntie Joyce is going to be wanting to talk to me about my partner that died, and she's going to get all morbid, and it's going to be, people are going to be crying, or oh, my old boss is going to be there and it's going to be awkward. Now, with the what if game, you're paving the way for a better experience. Now, thinking positively about that situation might be a bit too far of a leap for you, but playing the what if game is very easy. You could say things like, what if this party is going to be really fun? What if everybody there just has a really good time? What if all the conversations I have actually are productive conversations and I have a really good time? What if actually everybody has fun and laughs and has a joyful time? And you're basically you're putting in the potential for a much better situation before it occurs. Because basically, we are what we think. It is something, as I said, in fresh grief. This is not something that you're going to be able to get a grip of at that time. But, we are our thoughts. So if we pave the way for a negative situation, it's more than likely that that situation is going to happen. If we expect something to happen, it probably will. If we expect something to be better than we think it will be, then it probably will be better than we think it will be, because it's our perspective that allows us to experience something better. Okay, so what's the reason for this? What's the way the pivot, the what if game works? Well, basically, in anything in life, you've either got something or there's a lack of something. So if you're feeling full of grief, you've got one end of the stick that's full of grief, and you've got the other end of the stick that is happy and free, lack of freedom and freedom. That we can convert that to any kind of situation. If you are feeling like you're lacking in money, you've either got the lack of money or you've got money. It's a very direct polarity. So with the what if game, if you think about it as a sort of a balancing stick, and if your thoughts are negative emotions, the negative emotions side of the stick is going to be weighed downwards. By doing the what if game, rather than immediately pivoting it, which is sometimes difficult to do, you're very gently just tipping it so you feel a bit better about the situation. And if you keep doing it, eventually you will tip into a more positive emotion. That's just the simple way of how it works. Also, the way that this works is you're posing a question. And when we pose a question towards any kind of situation, you're actually diffusing it in some way. So it's a problem solution orientated situation, which feels very black and white when we're talking about emotions. But, if you're stuck in a negative emotion and you want to get to a positive emotion, posing a question diffuses the negativity around that situation and can help you to find a solution. And it's the solution which takes us to the positive side of things. Okay, so some examples of the what if game just in general life, because we are talking about flowing in general life and getting everything, our positive emotions to flow through the day. Now, let's say, for example, we get up for work and we have our breakfast, get ready, go and get in the car. You'd say, what if today I get every green light on the way to work? It puts a positive spin, or it paves a positive way for a better situation. What if today at work I have a really good conversation with my boss? Maybe you've got a meeting with your boss, maybe you've got a meeting with colleagues. What if today that meeting is the most productive meeting I've ever had? You're meeting someone, maybe a client for dinner, maybe you've got a client on Zoom that you're going to be talking to. What if today that's the best conversation I have in the 24 hours of this day? You're paving the way for that more positive situation. Okay, the next thing I want to talk about, because this is very important and it ties back into part 2. In part 2, we had a look at something called It's Not My Fault. So this was an activity to help to guide you into a better feeling position for things that we blame ourselves for. And I do encourage you to do that activity. As I said, there is a handout for part 2, and I've put the link to that in the description of this video as well, so you can download that. And it takes you through the It's Not My Fault exercise. And basically in that exercise, you're identifying someone, something, which could even be yourself, and you're doing an exercise to be able to transfer a feeling of love onto the person or the thing or yourself that you would like to forgive, because blame and shame and guilt play no part in anybody's forward moving or recovery. Now, worthiness is very important in this kind of work, because if you don't think you're worthy of a better feeling thought, if you don't think you're worthy of freedom, if you don't think you're worthy of money and income and the better job, and you don't think you're worthy of love, then if you don't find it yourself worthy of it, then nobody else is going to think you're worthy of it either. So the 3 things that come up for us when we're talking about worthiness are relationships, and the death of a loved one, and also the loss of a job. So we need to break through that feeling of feeling unworthy, because feeling unworthy is a false belief. It's not true. Even if you feel unworthy, it's not true, because you are worthy. You are worthy of absolutely everything you want in your life. All the money that you want, all the love that you want, all the jobs that you want, all the career path that you want, you are worthy of it, and you do deserve it. And if you don't feel that way, that's what you need to change. So 3 ways to try and give yourself a better feeling of value. There are 3 very simple solutions to be able to do that. Hi, Kim. Who else we got watching? My phone's always, it doesn't know that it's on its side, I don't think. Barbara. Hi, Barbara. Hi, Kim. Okay, so 3 strategies to try and increase your feeling of worthiness and your value for yourself. Now, the first thing to do is, and this is actually very applicable for anyone who's just gone through a relationship breakup, and this also probably applies to the death of a loved one as well, is to identify what lights you up. What gets you excited? So what often happens, or what I've noticed in my practice talking to people who've been going through their grief process, whether that be a relationship or the death of a loved one, is they often find that in the process of being in a relationship, and it is quite normal, it's quite a common thing to happen, they tend to lose a little bit of their own identity. So whereas when they were young and single and carefree, they tended to enjoy things in life that when they were with their partner or with the husband or whoever they were with, those things tended to fall off, and you become, to all intents and purposes, you become kind of a moulded together form, or this, this couple becomes one kind of person. I know it myself. I go through it. It's absolutely completely normal. But when you come out the other side, you lose your identity. You kind of think, well, who was I before this relationship? So one of the strategies to improve your feeling of worthiness is actually to identify what lights you up. Before you met your partner, before you were in this possibly very loving, amazing relationship, what did you love to do before that really made you feel amazing? Now, if I take my mum, for example, and she probably will be watching this, so hi mum at some point. My mum, after my dad died, she took up pottery, and I have lots of pots around my house that my mum made, because it was something she used to do, I think, when she was younger, and she really, really enjoyed it. It was something that really lit her up. She doesn't do it as much now because she's in a very loving and stable relationship again, which is fantastic. But it was something that she did going through her own grief process, and that it was amazing. It really, really did her good. I have to turn my head to read your comments, Kim. Yeah, I'm here just listening. Excellent. Yeah, so finding something that lights you up is something, and when you see the production of, or if you see the result of doing what lights you up, then it makes you feel more valuable. It's a really, really, really good thing to do. The next thing to do is actually, another strategy is to identify what makes you special. Now that might be quite tough for some people. If you've been in a relationship for a long time, maybe you've brought your kids up, you've got a dog or anything like that. 18 months single. Good for you, Kim. Well done. I hope you're doing really well. Kim, tell us what you do to light yourself up. Well, there you go. That's quick. Baking. Must get the other. Actually, that leads into this thing I'm going to be talking about. So what makes you special? Now, maybe you've brought the kids up, maybe you've had a successful job for a long time, but what makes you special? Do you have a talent? Do you love baking? You know, the result of baking, it might just seem very mundane. It might seem not really important at all. But if you bake a cake and you look at it and it tastes great and it looks great, that is a sense of accomplishment. And that is something that can lift you up and make you feel more worthy. It might seem very strange, but really if you focus your attention on that and you give yourself the pat on the back that you deserve, you're going to give yourself more value. It could also be things like, you know, maybe you're great at knitting. Knit scarves for your family members. Maybe you're great at cooking. Maybe you're great at crafts. Maybe you've got amazing kids who are now grown up, or maybe they're teenagers and they're doing really well and they're really great people. Those are things that you really need to identify for yourself as being, you know, give yourself the pat on the back that you deserve for doing that. Well done. That gives you more value. That makes you feel more worthy. Now the third thing, it might seem a bit strange, and it is something, when I first discovered it, when I first read about it and heard about it, it never occurred to me before. What does Kim say here? I'm good at card making. Yeah, being creative, actually Kim, that's a really good example, as well as the baking, because being creative is actually really, really important for your mental health. Absolutely really important. And even people who say, oh no, I'm not very artistic, I'm not very creative, actually most people are in some way creative, and it's really, really important. So thanks for bringing that up, Kim. That's really great. Okay, that third thing. So when I first heard about this, it hadn't occurred to me. I've been doing it in my life quite recently, and it really does make a difference. It's called leveling up, or what I call leveling up. Some people call it upgrading. And you think, well, how can I do that? Well, basically, it's the little tiny things in life, and actually this applies again if you've lost a relationship or maybe your loved one has passed away. Sometimes you put yourself on the back burner. Maybe you've got kids, your kids come first, your partner comes first, and it's time to put yourself first. Now, upgrading could be something as simple as, for me, what I did recently is I bought myself a really good bed sheet, because not that I don't need to upgrade because of a loss, because my boyfriend is sitting downstairs right now working, so everything's fine. But I really wanted to upgrade something in my life to make myself feel a bit more special, and I bought a really good quality bed sheet. Other things might be, for example, getting a cleaner once a month. You might think, oh, I can't afford a cleaner, but if he or she just came in for maybe 1 or 2 hours a month, that's not actually a lot of money to give out, and it gives you a sense of upgrading. It gives you a sense of, you know, I can give myself as a present someone to clean my house for a couple of hours a month. It could even be something like, you know, normally you might go shopping and buy yourself a $9.99 t-shirt from H&M. Well, this time go and buy a $29.99 t-shirt from, I don't know, Esprit or somewhere like that. Because just those little upgrades, you might kind of think, oh, that's a bit weird, but actually it really works. The tiny little upgrades to make yourself feel that much better, that much more special, to give yourself the value that you deserve. It actually gives you a much better positive feeling. And it could be something as small as buying yourself some jewelry. It could be something as small as buying a t-shirt that's slightly more expensive than you normally would, or getting a cleaner for a couple of hours a month. It's just small, tiny things like that. It could even be buying a different detergent for your washing to make it smell a bit better. It's just these tiny things that help to remind you that you are worthy. Okay. So those two things are really, really important for helping to flow into better positive energy every day. So the what if game, which is just, you can just do it, you can play it all day, every day. when you go into a new segment, a new situation during the day, whatever that might be, a meeting, cooking, getting in the car, going to the supermarket, whatever it is, just play the what if game to help that positive energy flow throughout the day. And then also those 3 things to help you feel more valuable to yourself and more worthy of better feeling emotion. We've got some comments coming in. So Kim, bought myself a new cushion in the charity shop. Yeah. Painted my toenails lots over the summer. Yeah, that's a really good one actually, Kim, isn't it? Just that little bit of nail varnish on our toes makes us feel a bit more special. Going to try what if? Yeah, please do. And Kim, if you do that, just let us know how it went for you. If you noticed that having that better positive emotion set out and actually brought in a better feeling situation, that would be great to hear some feedback from you. Okay, so we've gone through those couple of exercises. Just want to make sure I don't miss anything. So at this point, having gone through the first part, actually, if you haven't seen part 1, I would just encourage you to do that, because in part 1 we look at 4 areas which are basically the 4 main areas everybody struggles with in life. So that was health, finance, livelihood, which meaning career, and relationships. And I asked you in part 1 to give yourself a score from 1 to 10 how you feel you are in those 4 at the moment. Having gone through these exercises, it's a good opportunity now to review those. So I wouldn't recommend it after a couple of days. I would just say give yourself a week of going through the exercises, have a look at the download that's in the description of the video and go through the other exercises that are in there. And after a week or so, just reevaluate where you are on those 4 areas of life, because you don't know how far you've come if you don't have a look at where you've been. So that's a really good way to find out if you know how well you're doing and if you need to put extra attention into certain areas of your life. And it's also important as well to do this daily. So, quite often, and I'm guilty of it myself, if I think, yes, right, there's something I need to work on in my life, I will do this every day. I do it for a few days and then one day it might drop off, or at the weekend, if I get up a bit later, it drops off. But it's actually advisable to make these daily habits to make sure that, you start your day in a good way. You can be able to go through your day improving the way that you feel in every situation, and not to forget to do that, because it's by forming habits that we actually can reprogram our subconscious mind, because it's actually the subconscious mind that is basically dictating what happens to us. What comes out of our mouth is one thing, but our feeling actually comes from the subconscious mind. So if we are if we're sort of saying, oh yes, I'm fine, but actually inside we're not fine, it's actually that's going out into the universe and saying, well, actually I'm saying one thing, I'm feeling the other. So these daily habits, doing this daily work to help positive energy to flow in your life on a regular, consistent basis, that's what reprograms your mind. And as actually, if you haven't seen Lubna's session from earlier today at 12 o'clock BST, go and have a read of that, or have a watch of that, because she actually says the same thing. In neurolinguistics, in our brain chemistry, it is proven that by changing the way that you think, in changing daily habits, you can change your brain. And that's what you're aiming to do here, so that on a more consistent basis you can be happier and move up that emotional scale and have a much better life. Okay, I think I've covered everything today. That's our half hour. If you are watching on the replay, I'm sorry about the glitch. Everything went kind of into a bit of an Inception movie there. I'm not sure if I'm the right way up. Everything went a bit weird, a bit Pete Tong, as we used to say in the 90s. So that's it for this week, and I'll be back on Thursday next week at the same time with the final part of this 4-part series in moving from grief to gratitude. So I really hope to see you there, and please, in the comments below the video, give me some examples. If you've gone through the what if game, let me know how you got on. I'd love to hear from you. And if you don't want to put personal information in the public forum, then please do feel free to send me a direct message and I will respond to you. Thanks for watching. Thanks for watching the replay. I'll see you next week. Bye bye.
I hope that you've enjoyed the show today as much as we've enjoyed making it for you. If you've got anything out of this episode, please do tell someone else how they can subscribe to the Brand Builders TV channel at youtube.com/brandbuilderstv. Why not join us at our next Brand Builders Thinkubator, a global mastermind that we run every week to take away the loneliness of being in business on your own. For more information and to book your place, visit light.brandbuilders.club/thinkubator. That's light.brandbuilders.club/thinkubator. Until next time, be the ripple that you wish to see in the world, and we'll see you soon.